Alright guys, in today's episode, I'm going to show you guys how to make a laser beam gun. So you can see I have this gun over here. If I shoot at the dummy, it will shoot a laser beam and he will take 50 damage. I shoot him again and now he's dead. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this video. Alright, so let's begin. The first thing that we have to do is to obviously insert the gun model itself. I'm going to search up Hyper Laser Gun because I like the laser gun model. It looks pretty cool and it's the first one. Okay, we'll wait for it. So you can see this is our gun model. So first of all, let's clean up this gun. I'm going to delete everything inside except for the handle. And inside of the handle, I'm going to delete everything except for the mesh and the fire sound, because I kind of like this fire sound. It sounds pretty cool. Okay, so before we get to the scripting part, first of all, we need to create a part. And we're going to scale this part down to something like, scale it to a very small size. And I'm going to put it in front of the gun. Something like that. I'm going to move it inside a little. This will be the position where the laser will be fired at. So we obviously don't want the laser to be fired at over here. We're going to want the laser to be fired at over here. Okay, so we're going to name this part fire position. I'm going to put it inside of the hyper laser gun. And now inside of this part, I'm going to create a wheeled constraint. And part 0 of this constraint will be a handle. Part 1 will be fire position. So what this does is that it prevents this part from just falling off of the gun when we run the game, because this part is not anchored. So if we don't have this constraint, it will just fall straight to the ground. We want the transparency to be 1 so players can't see it, and we want the can collide to be false. Alright, so now let's actually start the scripting part. So we're going to add a local script, a server script, and a remote event. Okay, we're going to rename this remote event remote fire. Okay, so we start with the local script. So the purpose of this local script is to tell the server that the client wants a laser beam to be fired, and tell the server where to be fired, because we're going to pass the mouse position from the client. Okay, so the first step is to define the player. So local player equals game.players.local player. This is just the player that is holding the gun. So now get the player's mouse. So local mouse equals the player get mouse. Okay. So now we need to detect when the gun is activated. Local gun equals script.parent. Okay. Gun.activated connect function. Okay, so the code inside of here will run whenever the gun is activated, or the player clicks on their mouse while the gun is equipped. So we need to tell the server. Okay, we need to tell the server. So we're going to use the remote event. So gun.remoteFire fire server. And in addition to sending a signal to the server, we're also going to pass it along the mouse position. So we're going to pass mouse.hit.p in the parameters, which is just the position of the mouse in 3D space. Okay, that's all for the local script. Now let's move on to the slightly harder to code server script. Okay, to start with, we're going to define the gun again. So local gun equals script.parent. Now we need to pick up the signal that the client sent using the remote event. Gun.remotefire.onServer event connect function. And inside these brackets we have a player and a mouse position. Okay, so the code inside of here will run whenever the client fires this event. Okay, and player basically is the player that fires this event, and mouse position is the parameter that we passed over here. Okay, so before we get to the creating the laser and doing everything like that, we need to prevent gun spamming, because we can't let a player just shoot 10 lasers per second. That would be way too OP. Okay, so we need a cooldown system. Okay, local cooldown equals to false. So on default, the gun is not on cooldown. So if not cooldown, if the gun is not on cooldown, then we want to set the cooldown to true to prevent players from firing it anymore in that period. Okay, cooldown equals to true. Now we create the laser. So local laser equals to instance.new. We're gonna create a part, and its parent will be workspace. Okay, and now we need to set the laser's C-frame, which is position and orientation, and we're gonna construct a new C-frame using two parameters. The first one will be the position, and the position will just be gun.fire position. We want to be at a fire position. And the second parameter will be where the laser is looking at, so we want it to look at the mouse position. There we go. So now we customize it a little bit. Laser to anchored equals to true. We don't want it falling off. Laser.canCollide equals to false. No weird collisions, so yeah. Laser.brickColor equals to brickColor.new. We're gonna use cyan, okay? Laser.material equals to enum.material.neon. I'm gonna use neon because it gives a nice glow effect to it. Okay, so we're gonna set the size. The size equals to vector3.new. The first two parameters will be the base, length, and width, and the third one will be the actual length of the laser itself. So we're gonna do 0.3 by 0.3 by, I'm gonna use 300. Okay. Now we need to offset the laser's position, because if you're gonna run this right now, you're gonna find out that the laser actually shoots both directions, because we're setting the laser's position to fire position, but the laser's position is actually the center of the laser, so that the laser will shoot in both directions. That's not what we want. Okay, we only want the laser to be shooting in one direction. So what we're gonna do is to offset the laser's position. So laser dot position not parent position equals to laser dot position. Okay, plus laser dot C-frame dot look vector times 150. So what this does is that it moves the laser 150 steps forwards in the face, in the direction where the laser is facing. So if you're gonna shoot the laser upwards, it's gonna move the laser 150 steps upwards. If you're gonna shoot it to the left, it's gonna move the laser 150 steps to the left. Okay? And we're gonna do 150 because that's exactly half of the length of the laser, so that the end of the laser is exactly at the fire position. Okay. So now we get to the actual damaging part. To do the damaging part, I'm going to use raycasting. So raycasting is basically a method to see whether a ray hits something. Okay, whether a ray hits something. So we're gonna create a ray so that it is similar to the laser that starts at gun.fire position and goes towards the mouse position. We're gonna see if the ray hits something. If the ray does hit something and it hits a character, we're gonna make that character do damage. So before we create the ray, we first need to customize it a bit. So local raycast params equals to raycast params.new. Okay, raycast params dot filter descendants instances equals to player.character. Okay, raycast params dot filter type equals to enum dot raycast filter type dot blacklist. Okay, so what this does is that it filters out all of the parts of the player's character, like the player who fired the gun, so that the ray does not hit the player that fired the gun. If the ray hits the player that fired the gun, then the player will take damage. We don't want that, because that will be a very bad game experience if you just kill yourself. That's not very good. Okay, so we're gonna filter out player.character, and now we cast the ray. So local result equals to workspace colon raycast. That will cast a ray in the workspace. So there will be three parameters. The first one will be the origin of the ray, the starting point. So gun.fire position. Oh, and I forgot, C-frame.new, you can't just do gun.fire position, you have to do gun.fire position.position. Okay. So gun.fire position.position, the second one will be the actual ray direction and length. So we're going to do C-frame.new gun.fire position.position. Okay. And the second parameter will be mouse position. Okay. dot look vector times 300. So what this means is that the ray will start from gun.fire position.position, and it will extend towards the mouse position by 300 studs. So this, if the ray hits something, that means the laser will hit something, because this is just like the whole length of the laser. So if the ray hits something, the laser must hit something. Okay, and the third one will just be params, raycast params. Alright, so if result, so if the raycast hits something, then local part equals the result dot instance. Instance. So result dot instance is the part that the raycast hits. So if part dot parent colon find first child humanoid. So if the ray hits a character, then we're gonna damage the character. So part dot parent dot humanoid humanoid colon take damage. I'm gonna set it to 50 for now. Just, you can set it to whatever you want. I'm just gonna set it to 50. So now that's that, and the only thing that we have to do now is to delete the laser and set the cooldown back to false. Okay, so wait 0.25. I'm gonna wait 0.25 and delete the laser. So laser colon destroy. I'm gonna wait another 1.75 seconds, and we're gonna set cooldown equals false. So cooldown will be 2 seconds, and yeah, that will be our script. So now I'm just gonna put the hyper laser gun into my starter player, so I'll spawn with it, and I'm going to add a rig into the game so we can shoot at something. Okay, there's our dummy. Now let's play test the game. Alright, so we are inside of the game, and apparently I put it in starter player, so I'm just going to take this gun out of start and put it into workspace and put it into my character, so I'm equipping it right now. Alright, so I have the gun equipped, and I have this dummy over here. I'm just going to casually go to the front. I'm going to shoot at the dummy. You can see it shot out a ray at the dummy, and the dummy took 50 damage like we instructed the gun to do. So I just shoot at it again, and you can see now the dummy is dead. You cannot gun spam on this gun because we set a cooldown to 2 seconds, so I'm just clicking as fast as I can, and there is only a beam of laser coming out every 2 seconds. And yeah, that is basically the tutorial for today. And make sure to like and subscribe if you like this, and I'll see you guys next time.